For joining us on a glorious and gorgeous Thursday afternoon. We are one block removed from the city of Charlottesville and Albemarle County Courthouses, where yesterday it was pandemonium as protesters hit Court Square, posters in their hands, chanting, media buzzing amongst the protesters, as many in the Charlottesville, Albemarle County, and Central Virginia community were livid with outrage. The fallout from ICE raiding a courthouse. One man masked in a baklava. Is it a baklava?
Almost. Balaclava.
A balaclava, not a Greek flaky crescent dessert, but a mask that covered his whole face and neck. I called it kidnapping. Other people called it arresting. Regardless, the conversation in Charlottesville, Virginia, is a conversation that centers on an outcome or a turn of events that have left many of us scratching our head and wondering, what is going on? What is going on? The last time we saw masked men in Court Square was in the year 2017. That was the last time we saw masked men in our courtyards, in our parks, in our streets, and around our courthouses. And in 2017, the darkest year, one of them in Charlottesville history, the KKK invaded Charlottesville, Virginia. 48 hours ago, it was not the KKK. It was ICE, ICE, that invaded Charlottesville, Virginia. And many in our community are making comparisons to that dark and disturbing day in 2017 where the Ku Klux Klan brought terror on our community. That same terror is percolating in downtown Charlottesville. I'm going to have a conversation with you, the viewer and listener, and ask you this question. Is the indignation fair? Is the outrage, the outcry, the shock, the horror fair? Or is Homeland Security just doing its job and following the orders of Donald Trump, who's approaching his 100th day in office? Some say in our community, of course ICE should look at court dockets. It's paramount for our country to be cleaned of immigrants that are not rightfully or lawfully in our country, in particular, folks that have legal turmoil, arrests, violence associated with their name and their time in America. Others make this point. How can you allow someone, people, multiple men in plain clothes, one with a mask, just to whisk, kidnap, abduct someone away in what is supposed to be a protected sanctuary, a protected structure where you pursue freedom and your rights? So much to unpack on this show. Now, we have more clarity. We have a statement that's been released by Chan Bryant, the Albemarle County Sheriff. I've been told Albemarle County's Sheriff's Office and Chan Bryant very closely monitoring the I Love CVille show. We also have a statement sent directly to us from Albemarle County's Commonwealth attorney, Jim Hingley, a man I have tremendous respect for. We are going to relay both the Chan Bryant statement and the Jim Hingley statement on today's show. A lot is going to come of this story. It's not the first we will hear of it. It's not the last we will hear of it. It's the tip of the iceberg. Again, as we approach not even 100 days in office for Donald Trump. A lot I want to cover on the program. I'm going to ask you, the viewer and listener, this question. And no, it is not hyperbole. Are we now, as citizens, allowed to wear masks in court? Are we now, as taxpayers, as citizens, allowed to bring our phones into courts and record anything we want at all times, regardless of instruction from law enforcement? That's an interesting question I want to discuss on the show. I want to also have this conversation. What are the next steps for Albemarle County and the city of Charlottesville to maintain law and order? I don't know about you, but I'm extremely fearful of unmarked men, unidentified men in plain clothes wearing North Face backpacks with water bottles on the side pocket of the North Face backpack, clad, as Judah called them yesterday, a UVA student, the attire of what you see around grounds. I'm very concerned that men that look like UVA students, that have backpacks and water bottles on their person, now have the ability, without badge in hand, paperwork in tow, and branded uniform on their body, they are now able to seize, grab, cuff, physically restrain, direct, abduct, shuttle, push, throw into unmarked vehicles and do what they want. A lot I want to cover on today's show. We're also going to talk which restaurant in downtown Charlottesville is the most important from a visibility standpoint. Most important overall is a very different category than most important from a visibility standpoint. The most important overall restaurant in downtown Charlottesville is probably one that's on the mall, and I would probably highlight Hamilton's, Bill and Kate Hamilton's restaurant on 1st and Main because of its prominence on the mall, its location on the mall. I may highlight Zocalo, initially launched by Peter Castiglione and Ivan Rekosh and Andrew Silver, now in a I guess you would call it fourth generation of owners. I mean, the first generation was Peter, Ivan, and Andrew. The second generation was Andrew and Ivan. The third generation was Ivan by himself, and now it's in its fourth generation of ownership. I get the importance of a Zocalo, and I get the importance of a Hamilton's, but is it the most important from a visibility standpoint? And that's my springboard Juan Sarmiento to talk about Fellini's restaurant and the news we broke earlier on the I Love CVille Network with it being leased and an Afghan restaurant, we are told, heading for that location. Judah Wickower, studio camera and a two-shot. I also want to give some props to Charlottesville Sanitary Supply. We saw the Vermillions yesterday. John Vermillion, Andrew Vermillion. You saw Andrew today, Judah. Absolutely fantastic human beings, John and Andrew. Honest, communicative, men of integrity, men that understand when you do business with customers, it's as much about providing a quality product as it is educating your customers on the value of the product and the value it can provide for the buyer's family. It's pool season, swimming pool season now. And if you want your pool in tip-top shape, it's Charlottesville Sanitary Supply, and there's nobody else, boys and girls. Judah Wickower, we view in on a two-shot. I call it outrage. I call it shocked and stunned. I call it indignation. I call it infuriation. I call it anger, disbelief. Others said, Jerry, you owe, and Judah does too, ICE and Homeland Security an apology, and you need to do it on today's show. Conan Owen, who I respect tremendously, he made that statement. Carol Thorpe pushed back on Judah and I. Albert Graves pushed back on Judah and I. Respect for all those viewers and listeners. On the I Love CVille Network, we can disagree with each other, and we can still respect each other. We want disagreement on the I Love CVille Network. I want your take. Indignation, outcry, shocked and stunned, Or now, with 24 hours to reflect, does Judah Wickhauer have the take that ICE and Homeland Security were just doing their job, and we should honor these men as being brave, looking to clean the streets of Charlottesville from potentially violent criminals?
I'm going to say both.
Wow.
Because they were just doing their jobs, and I have no problem with them picking up people who don't belong in the United States or who aren't here legally. The manner in which they completed their task, though, left a great deal to be desired. They may have shown their badges and their paperwork to the bailiffs before entering the court, which is unsurprising, especially if they were armed. I didn't remember seeing weapons in the video, but either way, I would think that they would be incredibly remiss if they didn't announce themselves to the courthouse. But they should have shown their IDs and the warrant paperwork to the person that they were attempting, who they eventually did apprehend and take away. And I think their failure to do that, as noted by several people, including the Commonwealth's attorney, Jim Hingley, could be cause for a serious problem down the line.
Lower thirds on screen. Judah Wickhauer makes some fair points. We are going to get to Chan Bryant's statement issued right after the I Love CVille show aired yesterday. The sheriff of Albemarle County entrusted with keeping the courthouse safe. Her statement coming up in mere moments. My take on this is very clear. It's very concise. Without warning, and warning is as much about the spoken word as it is a warning of appearance and perception. And warning of appearance and perception is uniform with brands and monikers on them.
I think that was another problem.
Badge visibly held or on a person, paperwork in hand, and word communication that we are ICE and Homeland Security.
Yeah.
That's how it's done. That's how it's done.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, oh, let me come in the front door, let me on the DL when no one's looking, show the bailiff the paperwork that we're ICE and we're supposed to be here, and then slide that paperwork back in my pocket and not bring it out again.
Yeah.
When you're served papers, the person who's serving you says, so-and-so, you've now been served, and they give you the paperwork.
Yeah.
When you have a warrant issued against you, or someone is coming into your home tied to law enforcement, they say, here's the warrant, you can read it. Look at the documentation. That did not happen yesterday.
Right.
And that's the beef. And that's the Pandora's box of danger.
Mm-hmm.
The Pandora's box of danger is as much about the people they're trying to arrest, abduct, tomato, beauty's in the eye of the beholder, glasses half filled, glasses half empty.
Well, I think that's the issue with not presenting paperwork, is that it looks very much like an abduction.
Exactly. We are in an era in 2025 where perception is the reality. And the reality that was captured on Tuesday in Albemarle County's courthouse was a video recording. Mm-hmm. That was the reality. And that video reality, the recording that was done by a cell phone camera, we all are social voyeurs. And on top of being social voyeurs naturally as people, we now have this incredible device, an iPhone, a smartphone, an Android in our phone, in our hand. A device so powerful, it is more impactful and powerful than the first computers that sent astronauts into space decades ago. We have something in our hands that is more powerful than the computers used to first send astronauts into space. And we all have them. So as social voyeurs who have a computer in their hand, a video recording, a papering of the trail device in our hand, the perception, the reality is the perception captured on these devices, these phones. Mm-hmm. And the perception is one of danger, abduction, kidnapping, a man with a baklava on his face, unmarked clothing, and straight up concern. Chan Bryant issues a statement. Albemarle County Sheriff. Chan Bryant, I hope you hear this. Think you do great work at your job. Think you're a great sheriff. Doing a great job. I think Chan Bryant, you've been stuck. Anybody that watches this program, Albemarle County Police, Charlottesville Police, Albemarle Sheriff, State Police, UVA Police, I back the blue. I back the blue all the time. You listen to the show, you know I back the blue. Dudes, dudettes, I get so much heat on the I Love CVille show for backing the police. There's probably nothing that gets me more heat on this talk show than backing the police, and I will continue to do it because I don't know what it's like to get out of bed and put on a bulletproof vest on and have a gun on my hip and kiss my wife and leave the door and say, honey, I'm going to see you later tonight, and yes, I'm going to encounter some danger, and yes, people die doing what I do. I don't have that fear. I don't have to go about making my living that way. I back the blue because I'm able to do this, walk around downtown. Judah's able to walk around downtown, and in large part because the police are keeping our streets safe. And goodness gracious, since Chief Kochis has taken the top position in the CPD, and with Colonel Reeves doing some bang-up work in the Albemarle County Police Department, and with Chan Bryant keeping the courtroom safe, and Tim Longo at the University Police Department, things have been pretty safe around here. I know we got a lot of fodder for conversation here, but in the grand scheme of things, outside of very few pockets of violence, Charlottesville and Albemarle County are extremely safe to live.
No doubt.
That's why when we hear about this gunfighting or people getting murdered, it resonates with us so significantly because we are unaccustomed to hearing about this on a normal basis. On many cities you live in, hearing gunshots or reading about a murder or two a week is the norm, so you're desensitized to it. We're not desensitized to it. And that's why when it happens, it's a big deal. But we live in a safe community. It's thanks to the police. And Chan Bryant, I hope you hear this. I back your department. Okay? I big time back your department. And Chan Bryant, I think you're in a rock and a hard place. Chan Bryant, I think you've been put in between a rock and a hard place thanks to the policies of Donald Trump. A man who we heard him campaign that he was going to run on a platform of tighter border control. We heard him say it. We heard him say it when he was campaigning against Sleepy Joe Biden. We heard him say it when he was campaigning against Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, a candidate who came in the bottom of the ninth inning after the National Democratic Party tried to puppeteer Sleepy Joe Biden and said that Joe is mentally stable. There's nothing wrong with Joe. He can easily do another 4 years. He's got the capability and common sense to do it. He got put in some debates in front of Donald Trump, and then the whole world realized, oh my God, Joe Biden, he can't do another 4 years. And then the Democrats did something that was unheard of to that point. In the bottom of the ninth inning, they made a trade. They made a switcheroo. And that switcheroo put Miss Kamala Harris in the mix. Miss Harris, she's real good at reading a prompter, not real good at reading off script. And people figured that out. And because the Dems couldn't run a legitimate candidate, Donald Trump ran in a landslide. And in the process of winning that landslide, ladies and gentlemen, he told everyone he's going to be tough on the border, tough on immigration, and clean up America. And when he was politicking and running, all of us thought, oh, he's going to be tough on the border. That must mean Texas. That must mean South Florida. That must mean New Mexico. That must mean West Texas. That must mean those folks trying to tunnel and sneak over the border from Mexico into the U.S. That doesn't mean Albemarle County Courthouse. That doesn't mean a block off the downtown mall. That doesn't mean in a place 8 years ago where the Ku Klux Klan came to Charlottesville and terrorized our community. But that's what happened 48 hours ago. And as a result of all of this that happened last year, as a result of the Democratic Party trying to puppeteer Joe Biden and then doing a switcheroo with Kamala Harris, who could not do anything besides read a teleprompter, as a result of the Republicans basically having their party held hostage by Donald Trump, which frankly, that's what he did, we are left in a scenario now nearly 100 days into office of the man's second term where one man, and I said at the beginning of the second term that Elon Musk was the most powerful man in the world. You know what? I was wrong. Elon Musk came out of the gates looking like the most powerful man in the world because he had all the money and he got Trump elected and he had Trump's ear and he was cozying next to Trump in the Oval Office, standing over Trump while Trump was sitting down and there was Teslas on the White House lawn. I'm like, that man's the most powerful man in the world. Guess what happened? The Tesla stock price went in the shitter. And when the Tesla stock price went in the shitter and the man started losing some of his net worth, guess what he said earlier this week? Guess what? I'm Elon Musk. I'm going to stop doing all I'm doing with the Department of Government Efficiency with Doge. I'm going to take a step back. I need to focus on running my businesses because I've lost a lot of my money. And now Musk is going into the background. But Trump is still front and center. And nearly 100 days into office, we see a man that is able, just from the spoken word, or better yet, from publishing a handful of sentences on a social media platform, Truth Social, that he owns. He uses a social media platform, Judah, that he owns. A company in Trump Media that is publicly traded. He's using his publicly traded company, his social media platform, to publish commentary about global markets that are making the stock market roller coaster ride like Alpengeist, Loch Ness Monster, and Apollo's Chariot, and the Big Bad Wolf at Busch Gardens, up and down. That's the most powerful man in the world, Donald Trump. He's got every country's prime minister or president or head honcho kissing his ring. China's the only one that's not, maybe Putin and Russian, but everyone else is. He's so powerful, he's got plain-clothed men driving unmarked vans to Charlottesville to camp out at a courthouse to secretly show paperwork. Hey, Mr. Bailiff, here's my documentation that shows I'm ICE. Now let me put this away. And goodness gracious, I don't want anyone to see what I'm about to do because I know in my heart of hearts that what I'm about to do is wrong. So let me cover my face with a baklava. I'm going to cover myself and hide because I know someone's going to catch me on camera and that could lead to collateral damage for my family. I got to hide behind this baklava.
He put the balaclava on after
once the video started.
Yeah.
Because he knew when his face was on video that the video was going to go viral, and in his heart of hearts what he was doing was wrong. But it was his job because he's instructed to do it by the most powerful man in the world who's hours away either playing golf on a golf course that he owns that bears his name on taxpayer dollars, protected by the Secret Service, or sitting in the White House figuring out how he's going to drive value for his stock.
Okay.
And also govern America. Sorry, he's the president. Also govern America. That's the most powerful man in the world. And it's not even close. 3 dudes come to Albemarle, plain-clothed, one wearing a baklava, and they drag a man in handcuffs who had just gotten his case dismissed into an unmarked white van and took him to God knows where to do God knows what. That's the most powerful man in the world. Chan Bryant issues a statement after the I Love CVille show yesterday, which we will read. And again, Sheriff Bryant, you're stuck between a rock and a hard place. And Sheriff Bryant in Albemarle County, this is going to continue happening at your courthouse. This isn't going to be the only time that this happens in your courthouse in the next 4 years. We're not even 100 days into the term. This is going to continue happening in your courthouse, Sheriff Bryant. Sheriff Bryant, her words, quote, "In the wake of recent events at the Albemarle County Courthouse, I would like to let you know that the Albemarle County Sheriff's Office is committed to protecting the citizens of Albemarle County and building communities of trust with all individuals we serve. As Sheriff of Albemarle County, it is my responsibility to provide courthouse and courtroom security. There have been a lot of questions being asked about the incident that occurred in the courthouse April 22nd, 2025. 3 plainclothes federal agents identified themselves with their badges and federal credentials with the bailiff before proceeding through screening area. Through the screening area.
Yeah.
Through the screening area.
Because they had stuff that they definitely would have had to screen.
But exactly.
The guy had a backpack. You're not just going to walk into a courthouse.
Backpack and a weapon. Okay, so they went through the screening area and they were able to put a mask on through the screening area. They were in the screening area when they put the baklava on. Am I right?
What's that?
They were in the screening area. They went through the screening area and then they put the baklava on.
I don't know the layout of the courthouse, but what took place was not in the actual courtroom.
No, but if you know the... All right, this is semantics. When you go through the courtroom, I've been in some courtrooms here for some good times and some bad times. And when you go into a courtroom, you're going through a metal detector. The question is where were they standing as it's tied to the metal detector? Regardless, they're in the courthouse wearing the baklava.
The metal detector is when you first walk in the door.
Okay, so I'm curious, were they wearing the baklava in the inside portion of the metal detector?
They would have had to have gone through the metal detector, and the person didn't start filming until they started trying to apprehend the second man.
Yeah.
So, yes, they were past the metal detector.
That's what I'm wondering, and I agree with you. I think they're past the metal detector.
Because if I haven't been inside the courthouse, but I've been at the front door, and you literally can't walk 10 feet without going through the metal detector. You have to get into the courthouse at large.
Right. So we're in agreement. We both think they're past the metal detector when the baklava goes on.
Balaclava, yeah.
I like the Greek pastry flaky dessert.
I know.
With many different kinds of jelly inside. Many different kinds of jelly. It's the surprise of the jelly that excites me. And the flaky crust. Chan Bryan says, I want to be clear to the citizens of Albemarle County that the safety and security of the citizens and its courts are the top priority of our office. At no time was this a raid of the courthouse. These individuals were identified by the federal agents and taken into custody with paperwork in hand for them, which would be the same practice whether it be Albemarle or Charlottesville police, state agencies, or federal agencies. The Albemarle County Court Complex is a public building, and as such, the only individuals who can prohibit entry would be the judges. Then she distanced herself and the office of the Albemarle County Sheriff's Office by the autonomy or the influence or the plans of federal immigration authorities like Customs and ICE. She's like, basically says ICE is going to do whatever the hell they want, is what she says in the statement. That's what she says, Chan Bryan. She's like, dude, I can't really do anything about this. Donald Trump has empowered ICE to be able to do whatever they want. It is what it is.
I think ICE would have had the power to do much the same whether Trump was president or not.
But it was not happening.
No, you're right. It wasn't happening.
It wasn't, and that's the thing. If it was happening, we would have been talking about it. We're talking about it now because it happened. And it happened in sketchy-ass fashion.
Right. But laying that particular fact at Trump's feet is also a little bit disingenuous. I doubt he knows the actions of every single ICE agent in the United States.
Okay, I'll ask the viewers and listeners, do you agree with Judah Wickhauer's statement right there? Judah Wickhauer just said how ICE is going about eradicating illegal immigrants from America should not be attributable to Trump as president. That's what you're saying.
I'm saying
That's what you just said.
Okay.
Okay, no, go ahead. I'll
Have it
stop
your
talking.
way.
I'll stop talking. Go. What did you just say? You taught me words matter.
I said that in this particular case, we don't know that Trump ordered the way they are going about this arrest. I don't know anything about other arrests going on in the United States. Personally, I think that if ICE officers are not presenting ID and warrants to people who ask for them, then eventually something bad is going to happen, because these guys look like a group of thugs. And I understand that they showed ID and paperwork to the bailiff upon entering the courtroom, but when you actually go to apprehend someone, that person should be, whether it's, given their Miranda rights or shown paperwork saying that there's a warrant for their arrest, that is very much going to prevent an accident down the road where somebody says, no, you can't do this. One of you just put a mask on because somebody is filming this. You've got an unmarked vehicle outside, and we 100% do not know whether you're ICE or some masked hoodlums.
Jim Hingley, the Commonwealth's attorney, sends us a statement immediately after the I Love CVille show yesterday. That statement, I forwarded that statement to you, Judah?
Yeah.
Do you have that statement in front of you?
Yeah.
Could you read that statement to the viewers and listeners word for word? This is Jim Hingley's statement to us following the show yesterday. Can you pass that along to the viewers and listeners?
Yes. Give me just a second. The email from Jim Hingley states that this is Jim Hingley. I was not at the courthouse yesterday when 2 arrests were being made by individuals who claimed they were law enforcement agents from the Department of Homeland Security. Because I do not have firsthand knowledge, I am investigating the circumstances of the courthouse arrests. The information I have reviewed so far indicates that these alleged law enforcement agents did not display a badge or other indication of authority that would empower them to make lawful arrests in these circumstances. I am grateful that no one was hurt in this operation, but I am also greatly concerned that arrests carried out in this manner could escalate into a violent confrontation because the person being arrested or bystanders might resist what appears on its face to be an unlawful assault and abduction. Further actions like the courthouse arrests yesterday would constitute a grave danger to our community. I will continue to investigate and to consider what appropriate responses, if any, may be warranted in the exercise of my discretion as Commonwealth's attorney.
Break that down for the viewers and listeners.
I agree with him here. He's basically saying that he did not know whether they had displayed badges or identification. We now know that they did display them initially upon entering the courthouse. We have no evidence that they showed them to the people who were being arrested, nor did they show them to anyone else who was asking for them, including the woman in the video. And he makes the point that somebody could have been hurt. And if this is the way they go about continuing to go about these arrests, unfortunately, it may eventually lead to violence because they look like a group of people who are just coming to assault and abduct someone. If they're not showing identification, if they're not showing arrest warrants, then somebody eventually, and I think we had comments in our feed from yesterday saying the same thing. Eventually, somebody with a concealed carry permit is going to pull a gun and say, "Look, you can't take someone away without proper paperwork." And somebody might not be too good at voicing that concern, and I pray to God this doesn't happen, but gunshots may get fired.
Or the communication with the unmarked men, the plain-clothed men, is only done with a bailiff and does not happen to be communicated with another passing by LEO, law enforcement officer. And what would you do if you were another law enforcement officer who just happens to be passing by the courthouse at a time that three men in plain clothes, one wearing a baklava, grabs another man and throws him into an unmarked white van?
Yeah.
You, of course, are going to do something. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, the Crozet, was his name, Justin Barber in Crozet, who went on the shooting rampage at Harris Teeter in Crozet and killed some people? Killed 2 people, that guy, right?
Yeah.
Who's the one that killed the shooter? A law enforcement officer that was shopping inside Harris Teeter at the time. Mm-hmm. So with this shooting that happened in Crozet, did we not learn something from this? There was a law enforcement officer that was shopping for some ribeyes and some bacon bits and some potatoes and some apple pie, and heard some gunshots in the parking lot, dropped his groceries, and killed the shooter on a rampage. Law enforcement officers are heroes in most cases. What would keep another LEO from trying to intervene when all they see is plainclothes men, one wearing a baklava, trying to grab people and shove them into O.J. Simpson's van? Right?
Más y menos.
Okay? That's the world we live in, where perception is reality. You don't see the SWAT team busting down doors on a drug raid wearing JanSport backpacks and tank tops, tie-dye tank tops and Birkenstocks and rainbow sandals and cargo shorts. They have something that says SWAT on their chest. They don't look like... They don't look like Jerry Garcia when they're swatting houses. You get my point.
I do.
Perception is reality. Perception is reality in 2025. And I feel bad for Chan Bryant, because Chan Bryant, I would imagine what you're doing right now is putting a protocols and systems in place, because Chan Bryant, this is going to happen to you a lot. You're going to be dealing with this all the time, Chan Bryant. Albemarle County Commonwealth's Attorney Jim Hingley, I would imagine you're going to get some systems and protocols in place. Joe Plantania, I would imagine you're going to get some systems and protocols in place. If I'm the Albemarle County Police Department and Colonel Reeves, or if I'm the Charlottesville Police Department and Mike Kochis, my systems and protocols in place would be to stay the hell away from the courts, because all the collateral damage that could merit would fall on ICE and Homeland Security and Trump's office. The last thing you want is LEOs intervening and gunfire happening with Homeland Security and local police officers. My advice for ACPD and CPD would be, goodness gracious, leave some room for the Holy Spirit. Albemarle County Police, Albemarle County Sheriff, deal with that. That's probably what Colonel Reeves is saying. Colonel Reeves' statement was like, we're not involved with immigration. We're not involved with customs. This isn't what ACPD does. That's what his statement straight up said. This is a Pandora's box of terrifying possibilities. And a possibility that we haven't even touched on 45 minutes into the program is this. And then I'm going to get to your comments, viewers and listeners. I'm going to get to your comments. Another possibility we haven't touched on is this. If men can just wear plain clothes and masks and abduct people, what's going to keep somebody from doing the same and abducting somebody just on the street, outside of a cafe, or in Albemarle County at a park, or on grounds at UVA, or outside of Bodo's, or outside of a coffee shop, outside of the park, Dart and Towel, on a pickleball court? You just abducted somebody and people are like, oh, they must be ICE. That guy looks a little tan. They must be ICE. Terrifying. Comments coming in. This is from Peter on YouTube. Since the sheriff says her office is responsible for the safety within the courthouse, was it not their duty to present to help with the perception, to calm the fears? I think so. And I understand this is Sheriff Bryant's first crack at this, but I think so. Where in that video was the bailiff or anybody in Albemarle County Sheriff uniform garb saying, this is legit, stay away, this is legit, calming fears? Fears are calmed just from the uniform. Just from someone saying, this is legit in uniform, that would be a calming presence. That was nowhere in that video. Nowhere in that video. Peter makes a great point on YouTube. Kevin Yancey says there are already cases of vigilante teams doing this in other states.
Good Lord.
Juan Sarmiento just is laughing his tail off with the baklava comments. It's the flaky Greek dessert. The outside layer just like melts in your mouth, and it's a surprise every time you bite into it. It's a different kind of jelly. Every time I have a baklava, I'm pleasantly surprised. Never do I think directly to order a baklava, but if I'm at a party or a shindig and there's baklava on the spread, I make sure I pick up a baklava. And I always get a second baklava after eating the first baklava. And I genuinely, pretty much every time, get baklava crumbs on my shirt because the flaky outer layer crumbles everywhere on your shirt. Love the baklava. Love the baklava. Jeremy Wilson is watching in Tennessee. He says this, and this is a point I've heard other people make. Was that man here legally? If not, he does not have the same civil rights that we do as legal Americans.
I agree. I don't have
Jeremy Wilson also says that you make your point. And when is the last time a U.S. president has the entire world on notice? Not since Ronald Reagan. I'll add FDR and Truman to that list. And he adds, Jeremy Wilson, who's watching in Tennessee, we got 13 states watching the I Love CVille show across the network right now. 13 different states, ladies and gentlemen. Viewers and listeners that aren't even tied to Charlottesville and Central Virginia are watching the program right now because of the topic matter. Jeremy Wilson also says, do vice officers wear plain clothes or do they wear we are the police clothes? And he's talking about undercover officers. Last time I checked, when people were getting swatted and the SWAT team was crushing into somebody's house, they had SWAT on their chest. But I also appreciate your comments about officers going undercover in plain clothes. Judah, the point you're making, then we'll get to viewer and listener comments.
I have no problem with the arrests, with detaining illegal aliens. It's the manner here that is troublesome in that, as Commonwealth's attorney Jim Hingley pointed out, people might, this could escalate eventually into a violent confrontation if a bystander sees this as an unlawful assault and abduction, as he put it. If they're not showing ID and paperwork to the people that they're arresting or the people around them, it could lead to violence, and no, we don't want that. I don't want that. But I have no problem with them searching out and finding illegal aliens and detaining them.
Randy O'Neill says, this is a self-deportation tactic. It will spread the word. Don't forget, anonymous federal agent shot the murderer in Crozet 3 months ago. No complaints then. What's the point he's making there?
He's saying that that people didn't mind when he wasn't plainclothed. He was off duty. We don't know what office he was with. But he was, he was allowed to carry a weapon, And I don't know that it went down quite the way Jerry Jerry likes to.
Which part was wrong? That he was shopping for sirloins, baked potatoes, and apple pie? Fine. I don't know what he was buying at the grocery store. I do know he was shopping inside Harris Teeter. He ran outside the entrance of Harris Teeter, and he killed the shooter. Okay? The only thing, for the sake of a talk show with a little bit of entertainment, because the premise of the show is entertainment, education, and enlightenment, E cubed, was he was shopping for ribeyes and baked potatoes and apple pie. Everything else I said was true. I have no idea what he was shopping for. Maybe he's on a keto diet. Maybe he's a vegetarian.
We also don't know.
Maybe he wants some cookies and cream ice cream. I like Breyers, not Ben & Jerry's. Ben & Jerry's getting a little too political for me. Go ahead, Judah.
We also don't know that he was actually still shopping when the shooting started.
He came out of Harris Teeter.
I think he was coming out when it started.
He heard the gunfire when everybody was running away from the shooter. He ran to the shooting. He was a hero.
I agree.
Okay. I said he was shopping at Harris Teeter.
I know.
There's nothing incorrect about that statement.
I didn't say you were incorrect in that.
He was shopping at Harris Teeter. Was it ribeyes? Was it vegetarian? Or was it cookies and cream? We don't know. Might have been fig bars.
So anyways, back to the statement.
Puffy Cheetos or crunchy Cheetos.
That
I like the puffy ones.
He's saying that nobody is complaining that somebody who wasn't dressed in a uniform saved the day after the two other unfortunate people were murdered. And he's saying that people do have a problem in this case. But it's a very different situation.
It's completely opposite. And I love Randy O'Neill. I love the comments on the show. I love when you guys watch. Great. Thank you for leaving your comment. This is not an apples to apples comparison.
I don't have a problem with these ICE agents not wearing uniforms. I don't have a problem in hindsight with the balaclava because, as has been noted, these people are doing their jobs. And they have been, I don't know if we've mentioned this on the show, but it is a case that some of these ICE agents who have been photographed or videotaped have had themselves or their families targeted by other gang members. So I don't have a problem with this guy hiding his face when somebody is filming this. What I do have a problem with is that they didn't identify themselves to anyone other than the bailiffs going into the court. And that, for me, is the big issue.
You have no problem with the baklava being worn in a courthouse?
No.
You have no problem with the baklava being worn in public spaces, despite specifically a law in place preventing baklavas and other masks being worn? And Hall Spencer covers this in the Daily Progress today. And he asked the sheriff, I'll read what Hall says. Hall's a great guy, one of the best reporters we have. He's in the Hall of Fame of reporting, Hall Spencer. He says this. Are you ready for this? Did you read that portion?
Most likely.
Hall writes this. He inquired with Sheriff Bryant's office whether the man seen in the video wearing the balaclava would be charged with a crime, seeing as wearing a mask to obscure one's identity in a public place is a Class 6 felony in Virginia. Sheriff Chan Bryant did not respond to that.
Of course not.
So does that mean you can wear a baklava in the courthouse?
No.
Why can't you wear a baklava in the courthouse then?
A, because I would never have any reason to, and B, because it's illegal.
But is it illegal? But you see, do you see the Pandora's, do you see?
They're federal agents. Do SWAT members cover their faces? Yes. Oftentimes they do.
Can federal agents go 95 miles an hour on Interstate 64?
If they were just doing it to joyride, no, they can't.
Can federal agents blow lines off a mirror on Market Street?
I mean, now you're doing the same thing that O'Neill was doing with the one guy saving the day without wearing a uniform, and these guys doing their duty in the courthouse.
What? I'm asking questions and wondering if this sets a bad precedent. You don't think someone's going to say, I'm going to wear a baklava? Oh, that guy wore a baklava. You guys didn't do anything about it.
Okay, let them do it. They're going to get arrested.
Are they going to get arrested?
You think that all of a sudden the Virginia law will just be nullified because
I
federal
do-
agents are allowed to
I
cover
don't know
their
that.
faces?
And Sheriff Bryant didn't comment on that.
She probably wants to get clarification on the matter, but I'm sure what she'll find is that in this case, the federal agent was not doing something that was worthy of what, arresting him, charging him with a federal crime or a state crime. I don't know, whatever you would call it.
Bill McChesney says the man wearing the balaclava was probably buying baklava.
You'd have to take it off to eat it, though.
We have to find some levity in all this.
Yeah.
Oh, what a mess. What a mess. And the crazy thing is, and I'm not making about this voting for Trump, voting for Biden, voting for Harris. I'm not making about who you voted for. But I'm making it about this. When we were listening to people, when we were listening to the candidates' campaign for the White House, and Trump said he was going to rule with an iron fist on protecting our borders, did we ever think that that would materialize 90-some days into office, not even 100 days, into plainclothes officers, one of them masked, in the Albemarle County Courthouse, taking someone away in kidnapping fashion? Did we ever think that would happen in Charlottesville? I did not. That was not on my bingo card.
I was just going to say.
That wasn't on my bingo
I don't
card.
think anybody could have predicted
That wasn't on Chan Bryant's bingo card.
No,
That was not on Chan Bryant's bingo card.
definitely not.
And there was a boatload of protesters out there yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
We're 1 hour into this topic. Kate Shart's Queen of Ivy highlights the Crozet shooting all happened almost simultaneously. A local paper, she said, published the Times, and it all happened almost simultaneously. So this LEO, off-duty law enforcement officer, was literally right where he needed to be at the right time. Thank the Lord.
Yeah, I think he was already coming.
Praise God.
I think he'd already finished his shopping and was coming out when the shooting started.
Yeah. John Blair's got a comment, number 2 in the family. I listened to John Blair when he comments. Here is something to think about. If you try to put yourself between the ICE agents and the individual, could you be charged with a federal charge of obstruction of justice? I think you can, because the Mr. Peabody in that video, Mr. Peabody, one of the 3 plainclothes men who appeared to be the
Pink shirt?
the leader, pink shirt, Mr. Peabody, Mr. Magoo. You know who I'm talking about?
Yeah, the guy with
The
the
George
ponytail
Carlin
and
look-alike with the ponytail?
ponytail and the pink shirt.
George Carlin's twin brother in
Said,
that
"Don't touch me."
in that video said, "Don't touch me, or you will be arrested."
Yeah, you'll be charged.
Those were his words.
Yeah, I think. I mean, I can't speak for every judge, but I would like to think that most judges would look at this from every angle and say, look, if you're not showing identification and paperwork to someone that asks, then I'm not going to charge this person with obstruction. Still, they would probably end up getting arrested and potentially detain themselves for who knows how long.
Holly Foster's watching in Henrico. She says, fantastic show today, and I'm absolutely staying away from Charlottesville courthouses. That's another point that should be made. If you wanted to fight for your freedom in court and you were in the country illegally, no way in hell you're going to court now. I'll take it a step further.
Okay, but
if you wanted to fight for, you jump in here in a second. If you want to fight for your right for freedom and you're legally here, and you're Hispanic, and your family comes and some of your family is illegal, you're probably not going to go to support your family member now. Go pay your tickets without challenging the calibration. Go pay your fines without asking for time in court. Your liberties and your right to stand up for your rights just got diminished right now because of fear of potentially beating baklavad into a white van.
But this is what some of our commenters have noted, that if someone is here illegally, they don't have the same rights.
The guy was here illegally, and he was in court because of an assault charge, and got his charge dismissed.
But that's what... I don't know why you keep bringing that up.
What do you mean why I don't keep bringing that
immaterial.
up? How is that immaterial?
If someone is in here, is in America illegally, what does it matter what they were in the court for?
Because it matters, because the guy was not a gang member and a violent criminal. People are portraying these men that are getting baklavad and throwing into white trucks and vehicles by plainclothes men as being MS-13 gang members. Some of them are. A large portion of them not. This dude has his assault case thrown out and dismissed. This guy was not a hardened criminal. That's why it matters. The perception out there is they're only cleaning up the dregs of society, and that's not what happened on Tuesday.
But they're not just cleaning up the dregs of society.
That's the perception. That is the perception.
Okay. And because you've said multiple times during the show that perception is reality, that still doesn't make it reality. But the fact of the matter is that his court case does not matter. We don't know, just based on the outcome of this court case, whether he is or isn't an MS-13 member. I'm not suggesting that he is. I don't think it likely that he is.
He had his case dropped. His assault case dropped.
Why do you think that matters so much?
Because if he was an MS-13 gang member, they would have held him longer because of suspicion or fear that he was a criminal, a hardened criminal and tied to other things. This was a guy who was a painter. He painted walls for a living.
I understand that.
Okay? And he got into a ruckus with his roommate. And then the case was dropped. It's not a hardened criminal.
I didn't say he was a hardened criminal. But if he's here illegally, ICE still has the mandate.
The campaigning and the politicking last year from the president was cleaning America from hardened criminals that are here illegally. And even today, the messaging and the branding and the perception is the folks that are being baklavad and white van and whisked somewhere are hardened criminals. My point is, this man was a painter of homes who had his case dismissed.
I have no problem with any of that. But if he's here illegally, ICE still has the mandate and the ability.
Georgia Gilmer says, Jerry, how do we know he was not a gang member? That hasn't been mentioned. And Kevin Yancey says, it's called due process, Judah. He gets due process.
Right. And hopefully he will get due process. But due process starts with arresting people who are not here legally.
Jeremy Wilson says, did the judge turn him into ICE? No, I don't think so. I think they just looked at a court docket.
Yeah. That's the way it sounds to me as well.
I don't think it was turned in by the judge.
I mean, are we suggesting that he is immune from action because he was in a courthouse?
My suggestion is a point of clarity. The people that are being baklavad are not hardened criminals and gang members. This is a man who had his case dismissed. That's all I'm doing is offering clarity with the messaging, because the messaging is the cleaning up of the streets is gang members. Okay? That's all I'm doing is offering, I'm humanizing something. I'm humanizing that one block from here, a house painter got treated as if he was an MS-13 gang leader. Okay? I'm humanizing it.
Was he really treated like he was an MS-13 gang member?
Oh my God, dude. If that was your father that had that happen to him, you would have a completely different story.
Okay, but then we have to deal with that as it actually is. It is not legal to come into this country just because you want to, and just because you've made a life and a family in America does not mean you automatically get to stay here.
Dude, I completely understand that. I am the son of a Cuban immigrant. My mother immigrated to the United States months before Castro took over under the cloak of darkness with my Mima and my Papi from Cuba. Mm-hmm. They left a middle-class life, a house that they owned, and their possessions. And my grandparents told my mother, who was in the 3rd grade, take everything that you can fit in a backpack. We're leaving now to go to Miami, where Papi was a ditch digger, Mima was a hotel maid, and my mom was put in an English-speaking school in the 3rd grade without being able to speak English. They came to America as illegal immigrants and then got their citizenship. I understand what you're saying. My point is, you have folks that are coming to America as illegal immigrants who are doing the right thing, who are trying to be American citizens, who are staying above the law. Our house painters, our ditch diggers, our hotel maids are in 3rd grade of an English-speaking school, and then you have gang members. And for us to label all this cleaning up of the streets as only cleaning up hardened criminals is bogus.
I've never heard that said, and...
You've never heard that said? Do you listen to the news or read any national news? Do you... The number one microcosm of what's going on here is the Democrats rallying for an MS-13 gang leader. It is all over the news cycle literally today.
Right.
Okay? It's a point of clarity. I would be doing a disjustice to any of the people that are caught up in this turmoil by saying there's varying degrees of illegal immigrants.
That is 100% correct.
Okay.
And as a point of clarity, just because the media is painting this as a bunch of MS-13 members doesn't mean that ICE is not allowed to...
Judah, I understand your point.
Okay.
My point is, the messaging is that it's the worst of the worst that are being taken from our country. When, in a lot of circumstances, it's the guy who on Monday painted your master bedroom.
I agree.
Who has kids and are working their way to American citizenship.
And I know that the Hispanic people in Charlottesville and the country at large, some of them are some of the hardest working people I know.
Instead of Miller, my name could have been Gomez. And look at my tan skin. Okay? I could have been Jerry Gomez. My mom's maiden name.
Yeah.
Okay? They came from Cuba as illegal immigrants and worked their way to citizenship. Mm-hmm. A lot of people do that.
Yeah.
Okay. There's varying degrees of what's happening here. 70 minutes in on this topic. Obviously, an explosive topic. Yeah, Kevin Yancey says this. Here's the point. Listen to Kevin Yancey's point. Good point, Kevin. I want to know when the European illegals will start to get deported.
That's a good question.
Great question from Kevin Yancey. Great question. When are the European illegals going to start getting deported? When are the Asian illegals going to get deported?
If you can find one, take a picture.
When are the European and Asian illegals going to get deported? Good point, Kevin Yancey.
Yeah.
"71 minutes straight into this talk show. Explosive topic. How do we talk about what restaurant location in downtown Charlottesville has the most prominence from a location standpoint?
I mean, you've pretty much said it.
I mean, we should I just dot the I's and cross the T's on the topic so we don't have to carry it over tomorrow? We broke the news on the I Love CVille Network that the Fellini's restaurant was leased. I found out about this live on the I Love CVille show when Conan Owen and Roger Voisinay in the comments section of last week's show said Fellini's was leased.
Nice.
Roger Voisinay in the comment section of last week's show said it's going to be an Afghanistan restaurant.
An
Afghan
restaurant.
An Afghan restaurant. An Afghan restaurant is coming to the Fellini spot. I know that building inside and out. Spent more nights than I can remember. Probably don't remember them for obvious reasons. Fellini's was a client of our firm for an extended period of time. Know the building owner. That building is falling apart. That restaurant's in tough shape. The kitchen's in really bad shape. The last time that place was used as a kitchen was December 2020. Fellini's closed because there's too much saturation in the space. You want to put the lower third on screen? Too much restaurants in this market. And pandemic, COVID, killed this business that was struggling to survive. The restaurant hasn't been used for 4.5 years. Mm-hmm. Imagine signing a lease on a building that's falling apart on a restaurant that hasn't been used for 4.5 years. Why do you sign that lease? Because the location's that good. And you can make a legitimate argument that the Fellini's restaurant location is maybe the most important location, I'm saying location, of any restaurant in the downtown mall. Is it the most influential of any restaurant in the downtown mall? No. The ones in the downtown mall are more influential.
Yeah, but they're not visible from the road.
They don't have 15,000 cars drive by there in the gateway to the downtown mall, which is Market Street. Mm-hmm. That's why Kit Ashey at Monsoon has such a great spot. She's got 10,000. One of the reasons I took I Love CVille, the business that we're in, this storefront in the downtown mall on Market Street, Judah and I and the team were previously on the second floor. We had a fantastic office on the second floor with 3 private executive offices, where here we just have one large, huge room. And these private executive offices, I had the corner office with a balcony overlooking Market Street right across the street from friend of the program, Jeffrey Woodruff's hedge fund, QIM, in the Enterprise Center. Now he's in the Code Building. It was awesome. The office was so sexy. But I said, I'm going to go from this sexy office on the second floor, where we have 3 private executive offices, including 2 balconies that overlook Market Street, and I'm going to choose to rent out those offices because I think the likelihood of me renting those offices separately and finding 3 tenants for those offices is pretty high. And my margin on renting that space with 3 individual tenants and 3 individual offices is going to be rent that's more than I can get down here in the storefront space. And on top of that, the storefront is going to offer me significant visibility when I can put the I Love CVille brand all over the storefront and have somewhere between 10,000 and 15,000 cars drive by there every day. The visibility of the gateway of Market Street means Fellini's, means Monsoon, are 2 of the most important or influential restaurants from a visibility standpoint in downtown Charlottesville. And for nearly 5 years, Fellini's has sat vacant. And now it's leased. And that's good from keyword of today's show is what?
Visibility?
Perception.
Perception.
The perception of the health and vitality of downtown Charlottesville.
Yeah.
Just uptick. The perception with 15,000 cars driving by and saying, oh, that restaurant's full. Oh, that restaurant's leased. Now, opening a restaurant in 2025, headwinds. Labor, where are you going to find it? Labor, expensive as hell. Restaurants, too many of them. Afghan restaurant, we got some of them. Downtown needs a lot of life and a lot of love in TLC right now. Still, I applaud any entrepreneur that's pursuing their dream. So, Mazel Tov. Godspeed. Congratulations. Props to you. Big ups. Big ups. Fist pump. Props. Mm-hmm. And that is the Thursday edition of the I Love CVille Show. If you like the show, share the show and tell somebody about it. Tag a friend in the comment section. Send it to someone and say, you should be listening to the show. They speak the truth. You might not agree with us, but certainly you know we don't sugarcoat anything here. We just speak what we think, and then we relay what you think into what is a melting pot of Charlottesville. Judah Wickhauer and Jerry Miller. So long, everybody.